Ken Hagelin, President of Minnesota Hospice, and your host for today's program. I am joined today by two colleagues that I have had the privilege and honor of working with for several years. They are Reverend Debbie Meckley, Chaplain and Spiritual Care Advisor, and Medical Social Worker Heidi Simon, Licensed Generalist Social Worker with a Master's Degree in Social Work. Thank you both for being here and sharing your expertise and experiences on today's program.
We're always happy to be here.
Yes, honored, Ken.
Boy,
Thank you.
I tell you, I appreciate you guys being here too. Well, we are excited for the opportunity to continue our weekly conversations about end-of-life healthcare. We believe hospice is one of the most important specialties of the healthcare continuum, but also one of the most misunderstood and unfamiliar healthcare options available to people as they approach end of life. Minnesota Hospice is a medical practice specializing in guiding patients and families at end of life. Our organization was founded by local physicians with a mission to create the gold standard in end-of-life care. We believe in the golden rule of serving others as we would like to be served. This principle drives our commitment to be an advocate for our patients and to provide comprehensive, personalized care to both our patients and their families. Our office is located in Lakeville, Minnesota, and our agency has been serving local communities for 10 years. We currently provide outpatient hospice services in the Twin Cities South metro area and southern Minnesota communities. One of our missions at Minnesota Hospice is to increase the public's awareness of the benefits of hospice by providing information and education for our communities to empower patients and families to make informed decisions regarding their end-of-life healthcare options. In addition, we are dedicated to providing comfort and compassion through extraordinary care, along with hope and inspiration through encouragement and innovative services. You can always reach us at our office by calling 612-930-3339, by email at radio@mnhospice.com, or online at minnesotahospice.com. Last week, we finished our two-part series on the topic of grief and the holidays. The first show of the series was titled Shifting Traditions, and we discussed ways to cope, heal, and honor those who have passed. The second show of the series was titled Feeling Grief Before Your Loss, where we discussed the importance and benefits of having authentic and courageous conversations with our loved ones facing end of life. Both Debbie and Heidi shared insights for our listeners on how and why we should consider moving through this experience with honesty and openness. Today, our show is titled Living Wishes, Hospice Stories of Hope. We will discuss the benefits of asking our loved ones about their end-of-life wishes and share stories of last wishes that we've been a part of. However, before we begin exploring today's topic, I would like to update you on some significant events occurring in the field of hospice and palliative care coming up in the new year. First is a big event coming up in April. My friend Susan Marshak, who is the Executive Director for the Minnesota Network of Hospice and Palliative Care, just announced an exciting event to kick off the 28th Annual Minnesota Hospice and Palliative Care Conference in April. She is welcoming Dr. Ira Byock for a special evening on Monday, April 9th at the Doubletree Hotel in Bloomington, located on the northwest corner of 494 and Highway 100. Susan is expecting nearly 1,000 attendees at this two-day conference. This is the largest state conference on hospice and palliative care in the nation. People from around the country attend our event every year. For those unfamiliar with Dr. Byock, he is the preeminent voice of hospice and palliative care today. His career as a practicing physician and leader in the hospice and palliative care community has spanned 3 decades. He is best known, though, as the author in transformative books such as Dying Well and The 4 Things That Matter Most. Dr. Byock's books are widely considered essential texts for anyone providing care or counsel to others facing serious illness or end of life. and they're also an insightful and inspiring read for everyone. Dr. Bayak's mission of providing whole-person care and his dream of making the end-of-life journey meaningful for both patient and family is more relevant today than ever before. You will be enlightened and inspired hearing about his experiences and stories in caring for patients and families through serious illness and end of life. This is a must-see event for anyone interested in hospice and palliative care. Tickets are now available on the Minnesota Network of Hospice and Palliative Care website. This event will sell out, so if you are interested in attending, please consider registering soon. Another special event planned for 2018 with the Minnesota Network of Hospice and Palliative Care organization is a collaboration with playwright Syl Jones and Mixed Blood Theater's Jack Ruler in an exciting new project that will bring an original play and community dialogue to stages across Minnesota, with the goal of fostering conversations about end-of-life care and choices. Please check out the mnhpc.org website for more information about this special program and project that's being completed this year. Two more events I want to mention quickly before jumping into our main topic today. First, the Elder Resource Association is holding their annual South of the River Aging and Wellness Expo in Burnsville, also during the month of April. We will keep you updated on this expo as we get closer to the event. Second, the Minnesota Gerontological Society is holding their annual conference on April 27th at the Earl Brown Heritage Center in Brooklyn Center. Please see their website at mngero.org for more information. My friend Tom Heider, president of the Minnesota Gerontological Society, puts on a great conference there every year. So I would encourage all who are interested in that to look at that as an option. Well, that wraps up the events and happenings segment. If you have any questions or comments regarding the information we mentioned previously, please feel free to contact us at 612-930-3339 or email us at radio@mnhospice.com. Well, Reverend Debbie, let's begin today talking about conversations between families and loved ones facing the end of life. And these are not just ordinary conversations, but are really wonderful opportunities to find out what their loved ones' last wishes may be.
Yeah, I think throughout, we're going to be constantly talking about conversations throughout the Minnesota Hospice show because that's what needs to happen at end of life. And I think it's worth re-mentioning the conversations that can open doors to all kinds of possibilities, but they're also the conversations that we tend to avoid. We tend to avoid talking about death and dying, and the myth that the person who is dying, who doesn't talk about it, just doesn't know what's happening. And that we know that that's not true, that we do know what's happening, and that they are constantly opening doors, sometimes very subtle, opening a door to a conversation, something like, I don't have much time left, or I don't think I'll be around much longer. And our culture kind of teaches us to pacify that and to say something like, no, you've got plenty of time, you're not going anywhere. Right. When in fact they opened a door to say, hey, I got to talk, and I'm hoping that you will talk to me and talk with me. And so today we're going to be talking about what can happen, the possibilities that can show up when we have these conversations, what can happen for families, what can happen for the person that is at end of life, and how they can bring more joy to the family, and how when we get that elephant out of the room, it leaves time for the memories. It leaves us an opportunity to talk about the vacations and to talk about the family reunions and the fishing trips and, all of those things that brought smiles to our face that we might not talk about. And it also opens a door for some of the things that might be on a bucket list for that person. We all have bucket lists, I believe, but we kind of take them for granted, thinking we got a lot of time to follow through with them. So it's amazing that discussing those details can have great meaning and create a lot of possibilities for somebody with last wishes. So I'm reminded of the book Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die by Carol Truman, and that really is about moving those up and through us, putting those out in the air, putting them on the table, and it changes the way we grieve. We just had a couple of shows on grief, and we're here at the end of the Christmas holiday now, and so some new beginnings. And so for those of you who are facing that with your loved one, we're going to have an opportunity here to share some wonderful stories. We've been with our families through hundreds of deaths, and every one of those deaths is a story, and every story is important, and we wish we could share all of them, but we only have a chance to share a few of them. So we are going to be talking about those stories today with all of you, and letting you know that there are incredible possibilities that can happen when you start the conversation.
Oh, that's fantastic. Looking forward to that. And the other side of that, too, is you guys do a great job of preparing the family to have that open and honest conversation, because they need to be able to be ready to receive that as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway, this will be some great conversation coming up here, folks. You are listening to the Minnesota Hospice Radio Show. We will be right back with our discussion on Living Wishes, Hospice Stories of Hope.
7 years old, my mama told me, go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old.
Here's why companies, clubs, and organizations just like yours book Freddie Bell for keynote presentations.
I've been able to find my way through trying circumstances, and with each seemingly devastating situation, I've come back stronger and better. Why? Because of the techniques that embody courage, enthusiasm, and staying focused on the goal, that dream and that desire. What's your dream? What's holding you back?
If you've been struggling to get to the top, if you're searching for unprecedented breakthroughs, if you're looking for the light when the way seems dark, book Freddie Bell today.
The way to a successful life is using proven techniques that move you, that help you, and sustain you. It's time to get fired up. It's time to move up and to show up.
Freddie provides the keys in your keynote address. Call Freddie Bell now. 888-639-9738. That's 888-639-9738. Or visit FreddieBell.com right now to book your engagement.
Seward Co-op invites you to shop their 2 convenient locations, both offering the strong commitment to local producers and healthy foods you've come to expect. Shop Seward for your holiday meals. Currently offering local free-range Ferndale turkeys and vegetarian options, fresh seasonal produce, house-made pies, other assorted baked goods, and locally made gifts at 2823 East Franklin Avenue or the Friendship Store on 38th Street and 3rd Avenue in Minneapolis. More at seward.coop.
Hello, this is Ellen Krug from Hidden Edges Radio. When I'm not on the radio, I'm standing in front of audiences training about diversity and inclusion and on how to be welcoming to others who are different from us. More than ever, employers and organizations need professional diversity and inclusion training. I can offer that training through my company, Human Inspiration Works, LLC. I'd love to make your workplace or organization more welcoming. For more information, go to humaninspirationworks.com. Thank you.
Who can defeat Congressman Jason Lewis? It's a question a lot of Democrats are asking these days as the DFL gets ready to start its endorsement process. Angie Craig and Jeff Erdman are the 2 announced candidates for the DFL endorsement in the 2nd Congressional District, and recently they faced off at their first candidates forum. And you can hear it this Monday at 10 p.m. on AM 950 Radio. That's the CD2 DFL Congressional Candidates Forum, Monday at 10 p.m. on AM 950 Radio, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Lowry Hill Meats, your neighborhood full-service butcher shop that works directly with family farms. Using whole animals gives Lowry Hill Meats the benefit of preparing custom cuts and dry aging. They offer beef, lamb, goat, pork, and poultry, including whole duck, roasting hens, turkey, quail, pheasant, and Cornish hens. Their sausages are made fresh in-house weekly using 40 rotating recipes. Try their handcrafted sandwiches. They are second to none. Lowry Hill Meats is located at 1934 Hennepin Avenue in Minneapolis or online at LowryHillMeats.com.
Once I was was 7 years old, my mama told me, go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Minnesota Hospice Radio Show. My name is Ken Haglund, and I am joined today by Reverend Debbie Meckley and medical social worker Heidi Simon. Last segment, we began our conversation on living wishes, hospice stories of hope. And let's continue that conversation. And Heidi.
Hi, Ken.
Do you want to talk about a story you have that you'd like to share with us?
Absolutely. And as Debbie said, we just have so many. And I really want to just say that I'm going to do my best to just honor the people that I'm talking about because they bless us by letting us be a part of this experience with them. And so when I think about stories, I think about every single person that has allowed us into their lives at end of life and their families. And I look at every one of them as a teacher. And that is honestly why these stories stay so present and so true to so many of us, because in each experience, they're teaching us something. And I think about Pete and his wife, Darcy. They were, and how I look at them as a young couple. They were in their early 60s, and actually Pete was our patient. And so they had a son also. His name was Ryan, in his early 20s. And Pete experienced a disease process that was causing his declines to be relatively quick, which meant that he had to leave his job. And, they had their life together. They both worked. Their son was off in college, but he was working. And so they were in a town nearby the university that he worked in, their son. And one of the things that was part of their routine is they really enjoyed going to the hockey games. Every season they had tickets and they went, and it really made their son feel good because he worked in the activities department. So it was just this tradition that they had. And as Pete was declining, that season was upon us. And we admitted him into our care, and we were providing service. And as his declines were happening, it started to come to question, this is something that he had said, I really would want to be able to at least go to this particular game. And I watched his family hear that. And I watched how his wife, Darcy, had this way, because initially she wasn't really sure. She was a little apprehensive because of his comfort, like everyone was. All of his caregivers were thinking, this is a 20-minute ride, which for most people wouldn't be something to endure, but for him, we had to make sure he was safe and comfortable. And so we were talking. We started the conversation. He had shared that wish, and we started the conversation. So what could that look like? And we started reaching out, and we found a transportation company that had some availability in an evening, and we were able to go to our hospice organization had a foundation that we were able to request funds because, again, they went from a 2-person income to 1. And so things were really different for them. And so they were gracious, and they gave us a grant to help pay for the transportation. And so all of the things that we needed to have in place to coordinate this experience were coming in line. However, his health was continuing to be more and more of an issue. And so I watched his wife just stand in presence of what she knew he wanted. And the most important thing about this whole experience was he, as a father, in his role as a father, had something he wanted to impart to his son. He wanted to have this experience, and it wasn't necessarily even for himself, but it was what it was going to mean to his son to see him sitting in that row of seats cheering for this team that his son was a part of supporting. So thankfully we were able to make that come true for him. He was able to facilitate that wish. But I really think that we saw in that experience that it's not about everybody else, and sometimes not even about the patient themselves. It's about what are they wanting to leave, impart in their role with someone they love.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful story. I love that story.
Yeah, that is great. And I like it, the fact that it was actually a shared family experience, where we shared a few stories last week where it was about an individual wanting to experience something. I know that you shared experience about a person who wanted others to experience the food and the festivities and having a great meal that they couldn't partake in.
Through them.
Right. And of course that we had Don with the and that was really for him But again, what it left his family was an amazing experience and visuals that they will never forget.
Yes.
Memories, yeah, amazing. So great. Thank you, Heidi. All right. Well, I've got a story here I'd like to share with you in the last few minutes of the first segment, Robert. And this is interesting because we do come across situations where there's some family dynamics, and sometimes there's estrangement that is as a part of a family situation. And here's a situation where Robert was estranged from his family and his children. And in fact, what was really amazing is that his family didn't know he was on hospice. And you think that, well, everyone would be a part of that decision or be a part of that event. But in this case, it wasn't. And so our team got in, and as we always do, we try to make sure we figure out how can we best guide the patient and the family in this last stage of life. And so I know you guys did a great job of preparing the family, encouraging them to have a dialogue or open a dialogue up with Robert. And we also recognize that there was very limited funds available for them. In fact, Robert didn't own a cell phone. And so it was very difficult for him to even get in contact with his family and his children. So, again, we were so fortunate to have access to a foundation that grants last wishes, and they said, well, listen, we'll get a cell phone for Robert so that he can have the ability conveniently to make a call to his family. You guys did great preparation work for the family. They did look for receiving a phone call from Robert, and he made those phone calls, had a chance to develop a rapport with them. There was some good dialogue that would not have had you guys not helped facilitate that. And again, having the foundation available for that last wish, something as simple as a cell phone, but yet made a big difference.
And might I add to that the family actually did come and see him. His children did come to where he was, the assisted living he was at, and there was dialogue and conversation. And we actually set up a celebration of life memorial services at the facility that he was at, and I was able to go in and do a memorial service that he wouldn't have had otherwise. Probably had he not been on hospice, there would have been no one there for him to do that.
Yeah. We are so, again, we're that's why this job has so much meaning to us, is we get a chance to be a part of building some bridges sometimes, and helping not only the patient cross a bridge, but also helping families reconnect with bridges.
Yeah, it's a generational impact. It really is.
Yeah,
That's right.
I mean, how thankful are those people that have a chance to then say, you know what, we were able to get some resolution at end of life.
It's beautiful.
Great, thank you guys. Well, you are listening to Minnesota Hospice Radio Show. We will be right back to continue discussions on Living Wishes, Hospice Stories of Hope.
I'm still learning about life. My woman brought children for me, so I can sing them all my songs and I can tell them stories. Most of my boys are with me, some are still out seeking glory.
Seastead's, the family-owned flooring business that's been serving the Twin Cities for 100 years, has plenty of carpet and sheet vinyl stock to choose from and can help you with your wood and laminate needs too. Seastead's will come to your home, provide a free estimate, and professionally install their quality brand-name flooring products. For your next flooring project, call the trusted, experienced experts at Seastead's 651-224-5474, located across from the new Saints Stadium and online at seasteadscarpet.com.
Connections Radio Show is all about tapping into our hardwired hunger to connect. We examine meaningful connections to ourselves, our community, and the world around us. By opening the door to innovative insights by a wide variety of interesting guests, we'll make the connections to something bigger than ourselves. Join me, Lori Fitz, your host of Connections Radio Show, and together we'll make the connections. Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Supporting the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities has never been easier. You'll find an expansive list of local dining options at eatlocalminnesota.com, from classic American comfort food to authentic flavors from around the world. Enjoy all the flavors of Milton's, where they specialize in dishes like grilled jerk chicken, shrimp and grits, and much more, all made from scratch. Pick from Milton's large selection of beer and wine and finish it off with desserts like Bananas Foster. Milton's also serves breakfast every day starting at 7:30 a.m. The Seward Co-op Creamery Cafe is ready for the cold, serving seasonal dishes using locally sourced ingredients, Minnesota craft beers, and organic wines. New items include the cauliflower po' boy, harvest chili, braised beef tostada, and the pork banh mi. Find Seward Co-op Creamery Cafe at 2601 East Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis and online at coopcreamery.coop.
Hi, I'm Matt McNeil, and I want to encourage you to join me weekday afternoons at 3 p.m. for The Matt McNeil Show. It's a Twin Cities-based full hour of talk where we discuss what's going on in the state and in the nation from a Minnesota perspective. We'll be joined by a lot of great guests, and we'll take your phone calls. Interact with us on the Twitter page, at Matt McNeil Show, the Facebook page, Progressive Citizen X, The Matt McNeil Show, and on email. Comment at am950radio.com. The Matt McNeil Show, weekday afternoons at 3 right here on AM 950.
Hi, this is Mike Papantonio from Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire is a direct, smart, and I got to promise you, a fearless progressive talk show. Join me, Mike Papantonio, and my co-host Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Sam Cedar as we take on the large corporate conglomerates and that radical right-wing media that dominate America's airwaves. Ring of Fire, Saturdays from 3 to 6 and Sundays from 6 to 9 p.m. on AM 950. It is the progressive voice of Minnesota.
With your AM 950 weather, this is Eric Nelson. Today will be sunny and cold with a high near -6. Wind chill values as low as -31. Tonight, lows around -17. Sunday will be sunny and cold with a high near -4. Wind chill down to -30.
Which appliance store has more of everything you want? Over 300,000 Minnesota homeowners believe it's the specialists at Warner Stellian. We guarantee never to be beat on price. Ask one of our customers to rate our free delivery, appliance installation, and recycling services. Go to warnerstellian.com to learn more.
Children come and visit once or twice a month. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold? Or will I have a lot of children who can bore me? Soon I'll be 60 years old.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Minnesota Hospice Radio Show. My name is Ken Haglund, and I am joined today by Reverend Debbie Meckley and medical social worker Heidi Simon. Let's continue our discussion on Living Wishes, Hospice Stories of Hope, where we have been just sharing some of the amazing stories that we get a chance to be a part of and witness on a daily basis in our practice. I know, Debbie, you have a story of Karen that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, I do. Karen is a wonderful example of how you never know how a story is going to come up or how a wish is going to show its face. Karen was only 72 years old and came to us with severe illness, cancer. And she had, at 70, children in their late 30s and 2 grandchildren. One who was 6 years old, just lived a couple miles down the road, so saw very, very often. And one day when I was with Karen, she was having a pain crisis, and we were getting that under control with medication, but there are a lot of techniques, too, that we use to bring somebody and redirect them from their pain, from healing touch to conversation to meditation, and I was helping her lean into her pain so that she could get through to the other side of it. And so I was redirecting her, and I asked her, I said, Karen, today is not a good day, but tomorrow's going to be a better day. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be days that are better than others coming up. And what would you like to do on one of those days? And I was redirecting her thought process until, things kind of kicked in. And she said to me, I want to go see the new football stadium. And so I said, so you're a football fan. And it was so interesting because she was in severe pain and she started to talk to me about football. She did love football. But when I said, so you're a Vikings fan, she said, well, I am, but that's not why I want to go. Oh. And I said, well, tell me more about that. So here's this open door. And she says, well, I love football, but I've been really discontented with all of this conversation and controversy about creating this new stadium. And now that it's actually happening, she said it represents to me that people can actually come together on something.
Sure.
And they can make something happen and put away and aside some differences. And so she said, I want to go see that stadium before I die. And it's not built yet, right? Because this is a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And so, but they had this virtual tour there. And so we connected with the administration of the Vikings.
Okay.
And lo and behold, though, this happened to be taking place over Memorial Day weekend. So you had a lot of the administrative people out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it was getting pushed out. And there was an interesting piece to this because Karen was running out of time.
Yeah.
But we stayed present with each day we were going to make this happen, down to the point where transportation, there wasn't monies for that left because of the other things that we were creating. And so we reached out to a local transportation company, and they actually donated their time and services to get her quite a ways. Yeah. All the way to downtown. She was on the outskirts, an hour from downtown.
Oh, that's right.
And so she went with her family, both of her kids, their husbands, her granddaughter, who showed up with her every Sunday to watch the Vikings on TV.
Oh, okay.
And so we went down there with her. We brought a nurse, myself, our social worker. And so we were there, and they took us on a virtual tour. It was so amazing. It was 100 times more than I ever expected. They had a hard hat for her, which was kind of a joke because they were under construction. It said Vikings on it and her name on it.
Oh, they did.
They had a vest for her.
Oh.
And although we weren't in a construction site, we were in this virtual tour, this beautiful place.
Yeah.
And they took pictures, and then there was this lull of time, and they came back about 15 minutes later, and they had taken the picture of her with her family and her granddaughter, and they put it in a plaque.
Wow. While you guys were there.
They had somebody doing this, and we didn't know what was going on.
Sure.
So I love the story because Karen, she wanted to feel the energy of that thing that she thought she was never going to see. Yeah. And it didn't matter that she didn't see a game in it.
Right.
Of course, they took her in one of the press boxes, which was all a virtual game happening.
Okay.
And the team coming by, high-fiving her in virtual 3D. It was more than she could have ever have hoped for. It really, it shifted everything for her and her family, for that granddaughter.
Oh, yeah.
And she got home, and she passed within 8 days of that visit. And also had an opportunity, which happens for me so often, and I love this, is that then I'm either asked to do services for the family, for the patient, or to be a part of them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of completion for myself and for the team when we can go and be a part of that. But that story is such a story of hope, because that little girl, her granddaughter, who was almost 7, saw that dreams can come true.
Yeah.
She's a special needs child herself.
Wow. Okay.
And to see this dream come true for this person that was so close to her.
Yeah.
And she knew was dying. She was a part of it. She was there every day at her bedside.
Yeah.
Drawing her pictures and being a part of the pain and part of the joy.
Yeah.
But I think as I reminisce about this story, I didn't just come out and say, well, what's on your bucket list?
Right.
We were redirecting her through a pain crisis, and it was that moment, her thinking about that opportunity of that wish, if she could go do that, shifted her pain and how powerful our thoughts are. And so it's a story that allows us to think about the possibility of leaning into our pain, whether it's emotional or physical, and what can come out of that.
Yeah. Just briefly, what was the impact on the people at the Vikings organization? Was there? I'm always curious about. We never really understand or know sometimes the impact that those have on the people around.
Oh God, I'm so glad you asked that, Ken, because I almost forgot about that part.
Oh, okay.
The gentleman who put this whole thing on from the administration.
Yeah.
He was walking me to my car, and he stopped and he looked at me, and I could see his lip quivering. And he said, I can't believe I met this woman today. He said, my mom was just diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and she's 72.
Oh.
And he said, I didn't think about the possibility for her. I think what he was thinking was how protective he was of her, how he couldn't believe this was happening, but how we stepped out on the limb. This woman was under 100 pounds.
Right.
That we took to the
required
stadium.
Special transportation.
Special transportation. She was on oxygen.
Yeah.
I mean, and that her family allowed themselves enough to release the fear to allow her to go. But this gentleman, that had an impact on him, and he sent us a letter thanking us for the opportunity to look at his own life, his own circumstances, and how he might walk in and step into them differently.
Right. Well, great story. Great story. All right.
Okay.
Well, again, we just have a plethora of stories here we could jump into. Is there another one that you feel that we could talk about here in the kind of the last segment of this show?
Yeah, I'm thinking about one that's really important, as they all are. But this was a woman who came to us at 49 years old with melanoma cancer, and and it was really difficult. I mean, she had children in their 20s. Early 20s, and her husband, very difficult to have conversations about what the next steps were in her wishes. And after her and I got close enough and she trusted me, we talked about what was not done yet. And she was very emotional. She would cry a lot, and that was her releasing, but it was hard for her family. I think they kind of didn't see it as releasing, it just made them sad. And so there were things that she wanted to make sure that people got, her prized possessions, things that meant a lot to her, her funeral, her pallbearers, the food, the readings, the poems, the music. All of those things she hadn't been able to tell people, and she had mobility issues at this point with her muscles, so she couldn't write them. So we met every week, every Friday at 2 o'clock. I went to her home, and we'd take one subject. We did baby steps, one thing that she wanted to accomplish. And so I wrote down all the people that she had something to give to. And then behind each one of their names was the thing that she wanted to give them.
Okay.
And so that was how we opened up that part of our relationship. But each week, there was this gift that she realized she was giving ultimately to her family, that she was going to lay this all out and give it to them so that they could continue to have the conversations that they wanted to have that brought them more joy, instead of trying to get, this was their elephant in the room. Yeah. This whole memorial planning was in the way. And so each week, we would talk about what the next week would bring, and she had action steps. She also had a caregiver, personal caregiver that would come into the home and help for a few hours a day. So she would write some of those things down. She had like homework every week. Okay. And then I would come back on Friday, and we would talk about those things. And by the end of that process, that journey, she felt whole. She knew she was giving her family a gift so that they did not have to wonder, when all was said and done, did I play the right music? Did I have the right potato salad? There were things like food that she was concerned about, that she wanted to make sure were there, that her favorite things that other people got to engage in, embrace, and enjoy. And her family didn't have to wonder afterwards, did they give her the right flowers, the right colors, the right people to carry her casket? That was important to her. And because it was put on paper, then her son understood how important it was for him to be one of those pallbearers. Okay. So this person was dying when she was creating this, but there's an important piece to creating this before you get sick, and to letting your family know what it is that you want while you still can. And shows coming up, we'll be talking about that. But this story allows, I think, our listeners to see that there's so many facets and aspects to hospice caregiving and the service that we have and that we offer. It's very intimate at times, and it allows families to live inside of the disease process and take some of that off their plate if they can't do it. And so that was the importance of Brenda's story, and I will never forget the honor it was to be able to do that. And that was a lesson to me, because I've offered that time and time again now and been able to have the honor of helping somebody, other families, be able to create that gift for their family.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, you guys come in and provide facilitation to just open up a door, just create that bridge. And you took some things off of the family's plate a little bit there, so they could still be the family. Well, you came in and kind of helped with coordinating some of those last wishes and those details, which are very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Well, we're at the end of our third segment here. You are listening to the Minnesota Hospice Radio Show. We will be right back to continue our discussions on Living Wishes, Hospice Stories of Hope.
Once I was 7 years old, my mama told me, go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old.
Seastead's, the family-owned flooring business that's been serving the Twin Cities for 100 years, has plenty of carpet and sheet vinyl stock to choose from and can help you with your wood and laminate needs too. Seastead's will come to your home, provide a free estimate, and professionally install their quality brand-name flooring products. For your next flooring project, call the trusted, experienced experts at Seastead's 651-224-5474, located across from the new Saints Stadium and online at seasteadscarpet.com.
Hi, Matt McNeil here. Toyotathon is on. Head over to Rudy Luther Toyota as they celebrate their 40th year and check out the great deals. They're offering rebates on the all-new redesigned 2018 Camry. Check out the rebates on the RAV4. And did you know that both the Camry and the RAV4 have a hybrid version? Very impressive. Rudy Luther Toyota is the largest Toyota certified pre-owned dealer in the state. For all the Toyotathon specials, head to rudyluthertoyota.com or stop in today for Toyotathon at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Our weekly Native American talk radio show will discuss national and local Native American news and events. Local and national guests will help us keep current with Mother Earth, tribal, and Twin City issues. Native American issues are human issues. We invite all people to walk hand in hand with our struggles, victories, and achievements. Listen Saturdays at 2 p.m.
I am awake.
Join us at Also Ingebretsen's Coffee Bar and Gava Boutique, which is Norwegian for gift shop, at Norway House on East Franklin Avenue, where we can help you find the perfect Nordic-style gift. After shopping, enjoy a waffle dog, a favorite snack in Norway which translates well here. A hot dog dressed with Jarlsberg cheese and topped with lingonberry jam, wrapped in a warm waffle. Also Ingebretsen's Coffee Bar and Gava Boutique is located within the Norway House at 913 East Franklin Avenue and online at ingebretsens.com.
Hi, Richard for Auto Technical. Since '93, I've picked up the donated vehicles, and the question I'm asked most often is, how do you pay the bills if you give away cars? Well, we have a fundraiser on Friday and Saturday. Vehicles priced from $1,500 to $4,000, reconditioned and ready to test drive. Help support our mission. You will be impressed by the quality vehicles. A good bet is Auto Tech. Autotech.org.
One Voice Mixed Chorus, Minnesota's LGBTA chorus, returns to the Ordway Concert Hall for Sanctuary, an unforgettable evening of choral music celebrating the music of immigrants who make Minnesota home, including Scandinavian, German, Irish, Mexican, Hmong, and Somali. One Voice will also perform You Will Be Found for Broadway's Dear Evan Hansen and I Come From Good People. That's at the Ordway Concert Hall Friday, January 19th and Sunday, January 21st. Call 651-224-4222 or check out onevoicemn.org for tickets today.
Soon we'll be 30 years old. Our songs have been sold. We've traveled around the world and we're still roaming. Soon we'll be 30 years old.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Minnesota Hospice Radio Show. My name is Ken Haglund, and I am joined today by Reverend Debbie Meckley and medical social worker Heidi Simon. Let's continue our discussion on Living Wishes, Hospice Stories of Hope. And Deb, why don't I continue to have you talk about some of the stories that you have encountered here in your practice?
Yeah, we're talking about conversations, opening them up, and I hope that throughout these past couple of shows we've been able to give some folks opportunity to be able to approach that differently. That's my wish for them. We're talking about bucket lists and what that means. Oftentimes we have this misconception of what a bucket list is, that it doesn't have to be so big. And opening up conversations is the only way we're going to know what the wishes are of that person, that loved one who is in their dying process or end of life. And we find that the bucket list can change when you're dying. It may be something very simple as a conversation that needs to take place with somebody, looking into someone's eyes, quiet moments and conversations without any words at all. I find personally that I have many of those moments with our patients. I know, Heidi, that you do too. Just being present can offer support for someone.
Absolutely. I think of Bob, who, when I went to go visit him, I walked into the room and I could just tell that he really wasn't in the mood for conversation, maybe even a visit. And so I, just said hello to him and asked him how he was, and my feelings were right. He really was not. He said, I just don't feel like having company today. And I said, we don't have to talk at all. I don't have to do a visit today. But is there something else I could do for you? I noticed that his water was empty. So I said, I could just go grab you a snack and some water. And, well, yeah, you could grab me some water. That's fine. So I left, filled up his glass, and came back and set it on the table. And I said a couple things to him. And as I was, telling him, I'll be back sometime, I can just check in with you again, he said, and I said, sometime I'd like to come back, because he had just pictures everywhere on his wall of little ones. And I could tell they were grandchildren. And I said, so I'd love to hear the stories about all these little guys. And he said, oh, yeah, I got a lot of grandkids. And I said, yeah, that's quite a legacy you have there. And that comment led to him telling me that that he had a little great-grandbaby coming. So this is March, and this grandbaby was due to come in July. And he was sitting there in the moment realizing that he was never going to know that grandbaby. And I could see it in his eyes, the way that was impacting him. And so as we were talking, he just felt so hopeless about it because he was so involved with all of his other grandkids. And I said, but I feel like there is a way that you could have a connection with that grandbaby. And we talked about recording a message. And so I called his daughter that afternoon, and she went over to see him that evening, and they recorded a video message that would be played for that grandbaby when it came, or, throughout the years, because he knew that he wasn't going to be there. Mm-hmm. And to see that weight lifted off of him was pretty amazing.
It was pretty amazing for her, too. Mm-hmm. I remember her talking about that. So that's why, we find how important it is to honor choices through conversations and allow things to unfold for patients and families. It's okay to think about dying and the time that leads up to it, because, consciously we choose to avoid it. And that it doesn't always work. We find that people can become very unsettled, even chaotic, during terminal illnesses. So when our wishes are not in order or understood, our family can be left with a lot of what-ifs, should-haves, a lot of unanswered questions and regrets that they take with them as the living, as they continue to go on. So we like to help change that situation through setting it up and holding a space and opening up conversations, because we see this every day. It's just yet another educational piece. Heidi and I are certified facilitators in honoring choices, and that's advanced care planning. It's a process which it helps you think about, talk about, write down your choices for future care and for future care decisions. I asked our listeners a couple of weeks ago, if you knew that you had 6 months or less to live, who would you want at your side? What conversations, what possibly on your bucket list would you desire to accomplish? While it's not an easy topic to consider, it is important for every adult to have a health care directive, a written plan for loved ones, and healthcare providers to follow in case you can't express yourself, know who you are, or the people around you, to have that put in place so that your wishes are known if the time comes when you can't speak for yourself. So it's important to create an advanced care planning piece well before you become ill or incapacitated for whatever reason. We encourage at age 18 to make your wishes known and to update that anytime you have a major life change or a milestone that you encounter in your life. I talked about, too, in our first show about convenience, that are a series of public presentations throughout the state of Minnesota. They're based on the book We Know How This Ends by Bruce Kramer and Kathy Wurzer. Kathy's one of Minnesota's most recognized broadcast journalists with a career that spans both in commercial and public radio and television, and she is a featured speaker at these convenings. We Know How This Ends, Living While Dying, relates to the physical, emotional, and spiritual encounters that Bruce Kramer has as a person living with Lou Gehrig's disease or ALS. It's a very powerful opening to thinking about who you are now and how you wish things to look like for you as time goes on. So it's an incredible gift that we give to our family. It's priceless. You can go to honoringchoices.org. There's a lot of resources, topics, videos, and forms that you can look at. They're very user-friendly forms that you can take a look at and share with your family and start to think about what your wishes are and what you would want them to say. So as we continue to be a resource on topics of dying and death, Heidi and myself will be facilitating a 5-part series called Lifting the Veil, a series of conversations revealing the spiritual truth about dying and death. So for more information on that and regarding the details, you can go to unityofthevalleymn.org. That's unityofthevalleymn.org, and see when the dates for those are. We are very excited about this series. It answers a lot of questions, and remembering that dying is living.
That's right.
And that there comes a time that we have to start having these conversations, and it's okay.
Yeah, and you guys are experts at opening up those conversations that can be very difficult for families. Boy, we have so many more stories that we could have gotten to here, and unfortunately our time is running out for this show, but we'll be back for more stories in the future. That concludes our show for today. I would like to thank my colleagues, Reverend Debbie Meckley, chaplain and spiritual care advisor, and medical social worker Heidi Simon, licensed generalist social worker. We hope you enjoyed the show today. Please feel free to contact us with any questions or comments regarding today's show, or let us know of topics you would like us to discuss on future shows. You can reach us at 612-930-3339, email us at radio@mnhospice.com, or visit us online at minnesotahospice.com. Next week, we will begin a new series titled, When is it Time for Hospice? Thank you for listening.